Welcome back to another episode here on the Hard Hustle Podcast. Our guest today says we've got franchisees who didn't grow up with Facebook, but they've been able to build seven-figure businesses, helping families stay whole. That's what scaling with Hart actually looks like. Andrew, welcome, man. How you doing?
Hey, friend, thank you. I appreciate the invite to join the podcast.
Oh man, I'm actually excited to kind of going back and realizing what we were able to do on the first conversation. I think there's so much insight that you really bring, man. I really want to kind of start here. You didn't step in with a suit. You didn't come in with a slide deck. You were really printing schedules and answering calls. You were doing the groundwork before you become who you are today. What did working those early frontline shifts actually teach you that business school couldn't?
Yeah, when I first started with Assisting Hands, it was in 2010, and this was before a lot of the technology that we have. So we had our caregivers that were filling out their progress notes on the carbon paper. They would keep a copy, they'd bring a copy into the office, leave a copy with the client. And it was very tedious. And I'm just wired to make things efficient. And so even just like the filing of them, where how can we file it more efficiently? And I remember just putting in, some headphones and just trying to file everything alphabetically. But it taught me that in business, there is some work that you have to do. Some of it's tedious, but if you can get through and kind of cut through that, and you can improve the efficiencies of it, then you can focus on why you're doing it. And that, for us, that's the clients. For the caregivers, focusing on the caregivers, helping them fulfill, the empathy that they have and the caring heart that they possess, and then having the clients get the care that they need, because the service that we're in is just helping our clients get through their day with a little bit more care, a little more dignity, and that's what we try and do. So ultimately, yes, we're in business, but that's why we're doing what we're doing.
I mean, I really guess we can kind of go back a little bit and figure out, how did you get here, man? Why this space? You could be doing anything else, but you're here helping in the healthcare industry. Is this something that you kind of grew up where people were in healthcare, or did you just grow up and realizing, hey, there's such a need here? How did you get started into it?
Yeah, I actually started with Assisting Hands in 2010 because I was interested in the business aspect of it. So that's why I was doing everything from the quality assurance visits to outside marketing to the on-call. I was really just learning the business. I knew I was going to go to business school, so I thought, hey, it'd be helpful if I was in business and could understand it a little bit. So I had the opportunity for a few months to work before I went off to college, and it really helped me kind of lay the groundwork, my foundation for understanding business before I got into all the textbooks.
So you're saying that because I believe I kind of did the same, something similar. You went and learned on-hand business, right? Really what it looks like. So when you were actually in business classes, it becomes a little easier. Is that correct?
Yeah, not only were the classes easier and a little bit more intuitive, but there were things that were theoretical in business class. I'd be like, look, that's not how the real world works.
Yeah.
Like, the mission statements, like you have to have your mission statement. And in class, it made it seem like that's the most important. You can't open your doors before you have your mission statement, and it's important to have a mission statement. But in the day-to-day grind, that's not what you're looking back and opening up your binder and, okay, what is exactly my mission statement? So
Yeah.
it's just interesting on some of the things that they focus on at college compared to the real world and how to make a business successful.
Yeah, no, I agree. I was able to be already a general manager and open up my cafe, close the cafe, and then go back to school. So when I went back to school, realizing like, man, all these things I was literally learning by just doing, which nothing against people that go to school, but it's more of hands-on training would outbeat a certificate any single day or a degree any single day. And I used to get so frustrated because I spent 8 years in an organization where I'm like, I know the ins and outs. You can't teach people skills. You could teach somebody black and white, but you still can't teach people how to treat other people, right? How to lead other people. They would just kind of teach you just more black and white, as you mentioned, the mission statement, making that such a big priority when in reality, there's so much more things that you can actually make a priority there. But I felt when I was in these classes, there was still some things that I was actually learning, from the space of not being able to do hands-on. Do you recall anything that you said, hey, I got it all, but then school really gave me that thing that I still to this day actually utilize?
Yeah, I've joked with people that the most important skill that I got from college is Excel. And it's a little bit of a joke because it's like you go to college for all the knowledge, right? But I had some really good technology teachers that really forced us to learn Excel. And that has actually been a tremendous blessing for our business because we've been able to take things that are like a little bit clunky and streamline it, make it more efficient, have it so everybody could see it and kind of spits out some more KPIs, key performance indicators. But that has been something that's been like a hard skill that I can definitely say this was worth going to college for. And that was before AI. So,
Excel, man. Yeah, Excel was one of those things I didn't even know it did what it did. And I can't remember what the class was called, but it was very Excel driven. And we had to build all these different things. And I'm like, wow. Now, because it's one of those things that when you learn and you don't really practice, you forget about it. So now I'm like trying to, as you mentioned, chat GPT it to get me back in line. But yeah, man, Excel, it's such a good thing. And I think so many people sleep on Excel. Google Sheets as well. Like it just kind of gives you that same aspect. But there's people want to get the highest CRMs. And I tell you what, my CRM before I actually got an actual CRM, one of these companies, I was using Google Sheets, man. I had all these things lined up and I was creating these columns. Nowadays, you can just get a, CRM and it'll do everything for you. But yeah, I was doing the groundwork on building that, man. And it is pretty cool when you can make Excel do exactly what you need to. And a lot of organizations, if you're starting from the bottom, Excel is probably one of those great opportunities that maybe you need. Do you agree, Andrew?
yeah, and let me just connect that to business because with Excel, you're always trying to solve a problem. You're analyzing the data and you're just trying to solve the problem. And that, if you can get good at solving problems in Excel, I think you can get really good at solving problems in business because every day is just another problem.
Yep.
It could be a caregiver calling off. It could be a client that needs an additional caregiver for the day. It could be a special client where they need an additional shift that day. Whatever it is, you're solving problems. And so if you can learn to solve problems in Excel where it's an environment where it's not going to jump through the screen and bite you, and you can get comfortable kind of in the chaos. Well, I think you can then turn that and turn it into confidence where now in business, you can be comfortable in the chaos of business and really succeed.
That's so true, man. And I really want to talk about the business that you're in. You mentioned last time I spoke to you that it's more than a franchise. It's truly a family. You travel, you go and have dinners. I think last time you said you may have went or you came back from golfing with some of the other franchisee owners and stuff like that, and really being able to create that. I think it's huge from a franchisee perspective. Most franchises sell opportunity, but you built something people tattoo on license plate per se, right? What does family of franchise owners actually look like behind the scenes?
Yeah, Assisting Hands is very proud of our culture of having a family of franchise owners. In fact, that is my license plate on my F-150. It's
There
that
you go.
FOFO, the FOFO. So when I send emails out to the whole system, I'll say, dear FOFO or FOFO, this is what, we're announcing or whatever.
Love it.
We treat each other like family. We're in the business of caring for people that are in their most vulnerable state. We're sending people to care for their mothers in their own home, helping them with dressing and with grooming. And since we're in the business of caring for people, as a franchisor, we need to be in the business of caring for our people, our franchisees. And so we treat them like family. And yeah, I mentioned on our previous call that I went to North Carolina. We visited some of our newer offices, and we had the meetings and that kind of thing. But then we went to mini golf and just played putt-putt and had ice cream afterward. And it was so fun because all of us come from different backgrounds, have different families, and we were able to still connect and enjoy each other's time. And it's more than just the business; it's the relationships too.
And really, both of you guys filling each other's cups. I can imagine your cup left pretty full, right, being in that space, but also their cups. I think a lot of the times, I think you may have mentioned this, but a lot of the people that you work with are 50-plus-year-olds that have left corporate America. So for them, being in the corporate world is not always as good as you're doing it right now, right? Like I'm involved, I'm taking them out, I'm making them feel seen and valued. Like that's a win. I can only imagine that their cup is like, man, I've never experienced this in my whole time in corporate world, but look what I'm experiencing now. So of course, you made them excited, more driven to go back to the offices and do more. I think also what you're creating is the ability to, hey, I'm available at any time. That I'm just like you. Feel free to reach out. As a good leader, you show good leadership in just the small things that we do. Showing up, man, and go play putt-putt and ice cream. Such a huge, big win for you, man. Is there anything else, like any personal touches that you just love to, like fishing and putt-putt, that really scale better than strategy decks?
Anytime I go somewhere, I try and meet with one of our franchisees and just go to their office, get to know them, get to know their office staff. So for example, I was in Napa Valley for a conference earlier this year with tons of Homecare CEOs, both franchise and then not. While I was there, I was like, hey, I need to go visit one of our locations, one of our franchisees. And one of them was busy, so I went and visited another one. It was in the Bay Area. And it was so awesome to connect with him again, but also get to know his staff. And he's able to show off his office. He's built his own culture in his office, and it was great to support him and recognize him and the office staff, and they like to see somebody coming from the national team and visiting them and helps them feel special. But it really just solidifies our relationships. So anytime I travel, I try and go visit our franchisees and just, it's kind of like visiting the people in the trenches and saying, hey, you're doing a great job. Like make sure that they know that you care for them and you appreciate them.
Makes a difference, man. Truly just makes a difference when someone feels seen and heard. It seems like you're definitely the man to always make sure you're checking up on somebody. And I think that's pretty cool. And will definitely take you far in whatever it is that you do, man. But just leadership in general, I think it lacks that at times. So that's kudos to you on however you may have picked that up, whether it was school, hands-on training, family. But I actually would ask you, because we talked about just before getting on that you have a family of 4, man. You have a wife. You're still making sure that you're pouring into others. There's a lot to really learn from just your family and leadership. What is some of the things that you felt you take away from being a dad, being a husband, that you continue to also pour into your leadership in the business world?
Great question. Being a dad is very stressful, right? I got 4 kids, 12 and under, and so there's just a lot of challenges that come with that. There's resistance, there's disobedience, there's discipline, and all of those things translate into business. Sometimes we have franchisees that disagree with some of our policies, and so how do we work through that? And so being a dad, where I've trying to practice love and caring for my children, and it's not just my way or the highway, has helped because I can explain why we're doing it the way it is and have some give and take. And then that translates into business and say, hey, this is our policy, and sometimes we might need to adjust our policy. But it really starts back at the very beginning when we first meet the franchisees. When we come to Boise, we have Discovery Day, and I can go into more details about that if you'd like, but we really try and solidify the relationship there. And so with my kids, it's the same thing. I'm trying to have a relationship with them all of the time that's positive. That way, when there is conflict that comes up, they can look back and like, okay, this is a point of conflict, but I know Dad loves me, and he loves me no matter what.
I love it. The biggest thing that I take away from, I'm so early on. You have kids that are a little older. But for me, I feel like I'm learning patience. Like patience with my kids, and also patient with people, patient within the business. We're in a time where technology gives us things so instantly, right? You can order something from Amazon and get it within 2 days, sometime next day. You can go to ChatGPT and do research on something that would have taken you 30 days and figure it out maybe within 30 minutes. So I think we're kind of in this space, man, where I'm learning patience. My kids, they, as you mentioned, could definitely give you a run for your money. Just got to be patient, man. They don't know any better. It's up to us as leaders and as parents, and really what we are. We're just natural born leaders when we become parents. That you really kind of pour into these different things. So one of the biggest things I'll say, man, is patience. But I'm still learning everything else that you're talking about as well. As the kids get a little older, I can imagine I'll be there as well. But anytime I tell someone that is not a parent, I said what a child is going to teach you is patience. And I guess I didn't realize I didn't have too much patience, right? I'm that young kid that just wanted things fast and now.
I will say one other thing that I've learned from my kids is the ability to forgive quickly. Sometimes it amazes me where I do something and I have to discipline my child and they're mad at me, and then a few minutes later they're just back to playing, and they come give me a hug and they love me. I'm like, man, I need to learn from them. I need to be able to forgive people faster. And just when they say I'm sorry, just actually let them be sorry. Be sorry, and then just move on and just let it slide off you. So.
I love that. Let's get into the space of tech, man. Because we mentioned earlier in the beginning that your owners didn't grow up with Facebook, social media. Internet was something probably new at that time, but now they're using AI, which is kind of crazy to think about. A lot of people are not using AI because of the fear on being uncomfortable. But what are you guys doing that people don't expect to be utilized when it comes to AI, and how you're using it?
Many of our franchisees come from corporate America. They felt like they were a cog in their the corporate machine, so they wanted to start their own business, give back to their community, and they wanted to do something that had to do with their family or some family feel, and so they're a perfect fit for us. But Where they lack is, their technology, their tech savviness. So a lot of them didn't grow up with Facebook or some of the other social media platforms and just technology in general. So at our goal as the national office, the national team, is to create an environment where they can thrive utilizing the technology, even if they're not experts in the technology. So an example of that would be with social media. If our franchisees don't have Facebook and they're not posting, they're not going to know the best way to post and the kinds of posts that are going to get lots of engagement, right? But we have a platform where they can log in and they can see what other franchisees are posting. And then they can just reuse that in their location and it'll tweak to their information and they can see the analytics behind that. But we also use AI within that as well. So we can use AI to respond to online reviews. So if somebody gets a 3, 4, 5-star Google review, our system can actually use AI to generate a good response where it takes the person's name, and if they mention one of our caregivers, it takes that and puts that in there, and it's just actually pretty incredible. And then our franchisees can choose, okay, do they want the AI to respond to all the reviews or just, like we have some franchisees that only want to, they personally want to respond to all the 1-star reviews. And that's great. And so we have the settings in there. So it's basically as much or as little as the franchisees want to use, but they don't feel completely overwhelmed with all the social media platforms that are out there. Another thing that this does, it allows our franchisees to post to all the platforms out of one place. So they don't have to log in and out of all the different platforms. It saves them time. And then we also post on their behalf so that they don't even have to be posting all the time. So it gives them a competitive edge in the marketplace. So where our franchisees don't have to hire someone full-time to be doing social media compared to one of their competitors, maybe a mom and pop, who's, if they want to turn out the same quality and quantity of social media posts, they're going to be spending a lot more resources. And that's really the power of franchising.
If the Hard and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure to guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you. Yeah, and I'll tell you what, I've spoken to some individuals that are actually franchisee owners, not to your organization, but to others. And you guys are really ahead of the game on the way you look at AI and automation, because it looks like you guys are using both AI and automation, allowing the responses to be triggered, right, once this person, if it's a 1-star review. I think that's hella cool, but how do you get these people to adopt these systems? I mean, these are probably people that are already overwhelmed, they're confused, they're nervous. How do you get them to really adopt the systems? Is it easy? Is it something that you just gotta kind of walk them through? Because so many people right now hear it, need it, but afraid of it.
That is a great question. Adopting new technology is always tough. It's hard because it's change. None of us like change. All of us are resistant to change, whether it's a new diet or whatever. If you get a new phone, you might like it, but the fact that you have to change, it's tough.
Yeah.
So we're already just kind of pushing up against human nature with that. But if we can explain the benefits of it, this is going to save you time. It's going to give you a competitive edge. It's going to help you with local branding. Your brand is going to be better locally. All of those things help kind of make that change a little bit more palatable. So our franchisees, we also give them access to have their office staff do it. So they may be like, look, I don't want to do it. Can I have an employee do it? Yes, we want to be very flexible. We want to offer the flexibility to our franchisees that if they want to do it, they can, but if they want to have one of their employees run it, great. Turn over the keys and let them go with it.
I love it. And probably sometimes the best thing to do, right? Like, is to delegate the work to someone that's probably excited about it, if anything. I'll tell you what, I always say there's things I don't like admin work or anything that's repetitive, even posting on social media. So I've hired someone to do that part. I don't mind being on camera and doing that, but sometimes having to edit, having to post, so yeah, I think at times a lot of business owners, franchisee owners in your case, need to always think like that. Is that you don't have to do it all. Find someone that can actually do it. As a leader, one of the biggest things I always hear is, as I coach, is I can't find anybody to do the work, the way that I do it. And I always ask the same question. Are you a leader? 9 times out of 10, they're going to give me the yes response. Well, if you're a good leader, you should be able to lead someone to do it even better than you or just as good. And then they look at me like, I guess you're right. But that's really the case, man. As leaders, especially when you're running the show, it's not to wear every single hat. It's to know they exist and who to give them to. Am I right?
Yep, absolutely right. One of the things that I should say, another thing that we have in the technology is leaderboards, where they can see who's getting the most reviews, what's the average response time. So there's a little competitiveness to.
I love it.
This person got 20 reviews in the last year, and then we recognize them at our annual convention for getting the most reviews, that kind of thing. So that also helps with the adoption.
I love me a little competition. Anytime I feel like there's a competition, definitely, I'm working even harder. So I love that you guys are implementing so many good strategies that it's so easy to implement and not a lot of people look into it, man. Like, is this something that is just was already in place? Was this a collaboration between you and your colleagues that just kind of thought strategically like this? There's a lot of strategy in what you guys are doing and how you're doing it.
When I first joined the national team, well, let me back up a little bit. So I started with Assisting Hands in 2010, then stopped, went to college, went to a different career path for a little while, came back to Idaho, and then joined the national team in 2016. So I've been on the national team for almost a decade now. And when I was on the national team in 2016, we had 35 offices. And now we're up to 135 offices. So there's this incredible growth that's happened. And when I first was gung-ho in 35 offices, we were trying to streamline everything. That was actually one of the reasons why I was hired, was, okay, we're going to continue to grow. How do we streamline things right now so that when we're at 135 offices and we're at 200 offices, that we're not just running around with our heads cut off, that we have systems and processes in place. And so I lost my train of thought right there. What was your...
No, we were pretty much just talking about the way that we the systems in place, right? Like, you guys have all these systems in place. Is it a collaborative effort?
Oh, yeah,
Is it something
okay, that's right.
Guys.
Yeah, so when we had 35 offices and when we first got started, when I first joined the national team, I recognized, hey, we need to make something that has economies of scale, that benefits all the franchisees, but they only have to incrementally put into, right? And that's when we first adopted this social media platform. And we've been using them ever since. So one important key is to not just jump to the next one just because it's, saves a little bit of money or they have a new bell and whistle. Like, to have consistency. And it's weird to say, how can you have consistency while trying to improve efficiency, right? Like, improving efficiency means there's going to be change, which isn't consistent, right? The only thing constant is change. But having consistency within the platform makes it easier for our franchisees because they don't have to be jumping back and forth between, like, hey, what software are we using now? So come up with a core software, core technology they're going to use, and then it's just about training and refining that and improving it.
I think there's people going to be asking, because you're dropping a lot of good stuff here. There's going to be a lot of people asking, like, well, how do you know when a system is actually supporting people versus not just adding noise? What is your response to that?
A lot of times we ask for feedback. So we're getting feedback from our franchisees. Is this something that's useful or is it not? And you can tell if something's not useful if they're just not using it. Sometimes it could be really useful and they just need better training on it. But
Correct.
If it's not being used, franchisees have a barometer of what's actually moving their business, what's moving the needle, what's helping them grow. And so if something isn't useful, don't be afraid to just move on and say, hey, yeah, like that might have been good at the time where we were, but now we're moving on to something else. So some of the best practices that we have in place have come from our franchisees, where they've said, hey, this is really what's working in our market. Let's share it with everybody else. And then we adopt that, and we have this culture of collaboration and sharing. And we're not afraid to listen to our franchisees. We want their input. Yes, we're the franchisor, and we have the brand, and we need to protect the brand, but they're the ones that are boots on the ground, day in and day out, running the business. So we want to listen to them and adopt the best practices and the best ideas they have and share it with everybody for everybody's benefit.
Andrew, I think we're also going to have people thinking, wow, I love this franchisee model. A lot of people don't really understand the model. Talk about the model, man. What does it look like? Someone wants to get in and they want their own franchise. They want to continue to go from 135 to 136. They just don't know where to get started and what it even entails to be a part of a franchise. Could we kind of dig into that as well?
Yes, I'm a true believer of the franchising model. So franchising is you have a company, a franchisor that has the business down pat. They have the processes in place. They have the people, the tools, the software, all of that ready. And then you have people that have the capital. So they have the money to run the business. And then you bring them together and say, hey, we have a brand, we have a business, you have the money. And so they partner, they become a franchisee. And in our instance, with Homecare, it's in Homecare. So our franchisees, they rent a small office space, and then they hire and train caregivers to go into people's own homes and help them with activities of daily living. So our clients, they might need help with making their bed, or with some laundry, or with meal preparation, or with dressing, grooming, bathing, that kind of thing. So we're not doing anything medical. We're not doing like wound care, anything like that. We're just helping people get through their day with a little bit more dignity and a little bit more grace, and it's a really great model because it's very easy to scale and it's very scalable. So a lot of franchises, if you want to open up a restaurant, it's going to be a couple $1,000,000. You got to build the restaurant. You're heavily invested into it. With us, with Homecare, it's a small office space. You hire and train your caregivers, and they're W-2 employees, but you don't pay them until they go to work, and that's once you have clients, and they're in clients' own homes. So once you have 5 clients, 10 clients, 20 clients, that's not really increasing your overhead. Your overhead is growing incrementally, by getting more clients, but your revenue can grow exponentially. You don't need more office space. From 25 to 50 clients, you might need to hire one more office person, but it's not a one-to-one. So it's very interesting that in our industry, you don't need as much capital as you would to buy a McDonald's or a Subway, but you're able to still really scale it and grow it. And I just actually looked this morning, and we're publishing a magazine article in Franchise Dictionary highlighting one of our franchisees who grossed $1 million their first full year of business. And there's just not a lot of industries where you can get in a business, open your doors for under a couple $100,000, and then grow to gross over $1 million in the first year.
Yeah, I know, that's amazing. It's funny you say Subway. That's like, if it wasn't for Subway, I don't know franchise, but I was in the Subway model, so I understood it, and I realized how, one owner had 120 locations, right? And to a lot of these, it could be that one person has multiple locations, right? So it's not you just having that one office. You could go and open up another office in a different city, different state, because you guys already have the mindset behind it. You guys have the business structure behind it. And really seems like you guys are holding someone's hand from the beginning of it all the way to the whole process of it. As long as they're with you, you're holding hands, you're pouring into them, you're helping them become a better version of themselves as a leader. And I think that's so important as well. A lot of times you could be a business owner, but that doesn't mean you know how to lead. And it looks like, Andrew, what you guys really focus on is, I don't want you to just run this business and be a franchisee. I want you to understand how to lead people, how to lead yourself, and how to lead this company. Is that correct? Like, you guys are kind of almost one-stop shop in all this?
Yes, so that brings back to the power of franchising. We're incentivized to help the franchisee grow their office because they pay us royalties based off of the growth of their business. So, they're incentivized to grow because they're the business owner. They get the lion's share of the profits, but they share royalties. They will pay us royalties. So we're incentivized to grow, help them share our expertise and everything like that.
Where can somebody find more information on this?
They can reach out to assistinghands.com, and then there's, if you want to know about the franchising, there's a place that says franchise opportunity.
No, that's great, man. I definitely love it, what you guys are doing, and just to see how excited you are to talk about it too. I think since I first seen you, man, you could tell you love what you do, and it's just truly just out of purpose. Say it every single time. It's more of a purpose-driven thing that you're doing versus I'm just here to collect money to pay for my family and food and all this. No, you literally just love what you do. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, let me tell you one other thing about franchising and kind of what we're looking for in a franchisee. So we're looking for a franchisee that has some business experience. It could be managing a couple of people, but they understand kind of how business works. They don't have to have their own business. And we do not require anybody with any experience in the medical field or healthcare, home care, anything like that. They don't have to have any experience of that. The two things that we want: somebody that has some business experience, and then someone that has a heart for the business, because we are caring for the elderly. We're caring
Yeah.
for those that are disabled. And so if they have a heart for it and they're not in it for the money will come. Everybody's in business ultimately to make money, right? And you have to make money, otherwise you go out of business. But for the people that come to Assisting Hands, that are there for the right reason, because they have a heart for the business, because they have a parent or a grandparent, a loved one that at the end of their life they needed a caregiver, and they saw how much they needed it, and they're like, I want to make a difference in my community. I want to give back. Those are the types of people that we're looking for at Assisting Hands to become franchisees.
I love that. And Andrew, do you have a story, by the way, that reminds you on why business matters on a human level?
I think that we're all here on this earth all together, right? And I've heard stories of astronauts when they go up in the atmosphere, they look down and they see everybody together, and like all of the things, like why is everybody fighting? Like why are there these wars and still famine? Like why can't we all get along? Because we're all sharing the same place. And I think the beauty of business is you're incentivized to help somebody else. If you help somebody else in a way that they want, they're willing to pay you for it. And so successful businesses that I've seen are people that are just help lots of people. So the more you can help people get what they want or what they need, the more, you'll get paid for it. But really, to me, it's just a matter of like, okay, they've helped them a lot. They've helped a lot of people. And the more people they help, they have a reward for that. And sometimes that's monetary.
Okay. And if we could pitch something to those that's still stuck in the rat race into the corporate world, but they're scared to jump. And I think that's a lot of people. They scared of the unknown. We talked about it, getting uncomfortable. What do you say to them? What's your pitch to them?
You have to learn to thrive in the chaos. Change is constant. There's always going to be change. And whether it's the economy or whether there's an election or the weather, whatever it is, you can't let yourself get in this paralysis of or just this state of, well, in the future, I'm going to be happy then. Or if I can only get there. You need to live in the present, and you got to work through the present, and you just got to solve one problem at a time. And if you can solve one problem at a time, then eventually you'll have solved a lot of problems.
I'll leave you this last question before we get into the blind question. But what should every family know about home care before the crisis actually hits? 'Cause I think that's another thing that people don't realize is what home care even looks like until they're actually in it. Now they're all kind of scattered, trying to find the right one.
I'd venture to say that most people don't even know the home care industry exists. And that includes, unfortunately, a lot of people in the healthcare field. I was at a doctor's office, a wound care doctor, who was serving a lot of people that are on Medicare. They're elderly, they have wounds, and I was explaining, our business model, and he had never heard of it. He didn't know that the home care industry existed.
Wow.
So a lot of people, they think, oh, that's hospice. I'm like, no, it's not hospice. This is very different. Oh, it's assisted living. No, it's not assisted living. And so the first thing is just explain that the industry exists. Most people say, oh, I wish I would have known that I could have had somebody that I didn't have to pay a nurse to come visit my mom. I just needed my mom to make sure she gets out of bed in the morning and has a meal for the day. And then, so a lot of it is just educating people that the market itself exists. Our whole life we grow up and we buy cars. You can name 5 types of cars. We buy tennis shoes. You can name 5 brands of tennis shoes. But you probably can't name 5 companies that do home care because you don't buy it until you need it. And usually it's in a time of crisis. Mom falls, she's in the hospital, you're out of state, you fly to visit her, and then you're in this state of crisis of, what am I going to do? She needs care, and hopefully you're like, okay, I can do home care, and we don't have to go to a facility or a nursing home or something. So then you start calling, and unfortunately or fortunately, the first company that answers that you feel like you can trust, you go with in the home care industry. So if I could change one thing, with a snap of my fingers, it would be educating people that the home care industry exists and that you have options and that you don't have to live in your state of crisis. So when mom's coming home from the hospital, take a breath. You have time to do a little bit of research.
Yeah.
And you can find somebody that really does, a company that provides the same values that you do. One of our trademarks is quality home care you can trust. And that comes from our very beginning, our founder, who got in the business because his parents were being needed care, and he never knew if the caregiver was showing up. what the caregiver was doing. And this is before any of the technology we have now, right?
Yeah.
Now we have the caregiver that clocks in with the app with the geofence, and we only pay them when they're actually at the house working, right? So, but all of that goes back to the quality home care that you can trust, and that's one thing that we strive to have.
And I don't know if this is true, but I just want to make sure we don't box you in from a company perspective. So let's say that, knock on wood, I get hurt and I can't move, and wife has to go to work, kids. That assisted living could be for someone like me. It doesn't only have to be for the elderly. Is that correct?
Home care does not have to be for the elderly only. It could be for the disabled. It could be for recent mothers who, they just had a baby, child, and they're trying to help the child, but they're also trying to recover from from
Cook
giving birth.
meals and do all these different things. Yeah.
Yeah. So home care can look very, have lots of different faces. For the most part, it's those that are elderly. But
Got it.
sometimes it's disabled children. Sometimes it's respite care, where the caregiver is a family member and they just need a break. Like you're caring for your grandmother and you have to be with her all the time. And you just need a break so you can go take a shower, you can go shopping, you can go watch a movie. And so you just have somebody that doesn't really need to care for your grandma, but just sits with her and just makes sure she's okay.
She's good.
So,
Yeah.
so home care can have a lot of different faces. Most of the time it's in people's homes, but sometimes it's in facilities where you have a facility where there's a nurse that has 12 rooms she has to be going through, and that one person can't be left alone because they're on a change of medication. So we have a caregiver that comes in and just makes sure that they're safe and that they're not a harm to themselves or to others, because it's one-on-one care. Home care is one-on-one, whereas a lot of places it's like, well, the nurse will make their rounds.
Yeah, this is good information, man, and I wish I would continue to conversate on it, but I learned a lot, and I hope the people that are watching actually also learned a lot on it. But actually, this is a blind question, man. This is the last question before we move on. Have to end the conversation. You've helped build 100 plus businesses, but what's one conversation with a franchisee, the one where you almost quit, that really shaped who you are now, if that even happened?
Well, I almost quit. I thought you were going a different direction with that. There was a franchisee. There was an email exchange back and forth, and this was, coming up on, I don't know, 7-8 years ago, and he emailed the entire system. So we probably had 80 offices at that point, and he just railed into me, and he was saying that this, email like this and the news like this should have come from the CEO. The line that he said was, "This should not have come from a third echelon employee." And so, I mean, that one, kind of cut a little bit. And there was a little bit of pride, being like, hey, well, that, I'm not a third echelon employee, but I had to just take a breath. I typed a really long email and did not send it, and then just moved on with it. And I actually had a lot of franchisees reach out to me and say, hey, that guy was wrong. He was in the wrong. He should not have, if he had a grievance, he should have just done it privately. He should not have tried it publicly. And the way you didn't respond, like, that was the right thing to do.
Correct. Yeah. In those moments, man, it's like that fight or flight moment, right? You're ready to just kind of fight, but gotta understand we can't meet people at where they're at all the time, because that person was clearly not having a good day, and if you probably send that email, it was going to get probably 10 times worse than what it actually was, right? But here we are today, all these years later, man, doing amazing. Could imagine there's so many people that can attest to the work that you do, no matter where you are on the totem pole. I think that's really really good to talk about. No matter where you're at the totem pole, doesn't mean that you're less than anybody else. And I was talking to, what was I forgot where the conversation was that I had this week, but we were talking about being in a room and not being confident. And a lot of times it's because we look at somebody's title. We're in a room with a CEO, we're in a room with an executive director, maybe we're just Frontline. But if we go into that room, that doesn't mean anybody in there is smarter than us. They just hold a higher title than us. So it's why not continue to show up confident and where you're at today, because that doesn't mean that you can't be in that seat. And I think, for you, is realizing that is like, listen, I don't care what anybody says on where you think I am on the totem pole. I know the value that I bring to this company, and that's it, and you don't like it, there's other ways around it. But yeah, kudos to you, man. I don't think you were going to quit, but I can see where there was a little bit of sense of, is he trying my life right now?
Yeah. Well, I did definitely worry a little bit about what all the other franchisees were thinking, because, I didn't want them to, stir up a hornet's nest. And maybe there were other people that felt the same way. And it ended up that he was not a good fit for our culture, and he ended up just kind of walking away because he was all about the corporate America, and that's just not us.
Yeah,
And
that's funny. I was gonna ask you. I'm like, you know what? I don't know if the person's watching or probably still with the company or not. But I kind of figured that if they were like that, then yeah, that was probably the decision that they made. Um, we have to end the podcast here, man. But I ask you, where can people find you if they want more information on just you, Andrew, the individual? Are you on LinkedIn? But also, I think we mentioned the website a little earlier. Let's talk about the websites, the socials, where people can find you guys.
yes, I'm on LinkedIn, Andrew Dahle, and you just look for Assisting Hands. Our main website is assistinghands.com, and then we also have like Assisting Hands, our AH. You can find Assisting Hands, the national company on Facebook, but also our franchise opportunity. And the franchise opportunity is a lot of fun because you could hear testimonials from franchisees, talking about how the business has changed their life.
I love it.
We're also on YouTube as well, just Assisting Hands Homecare.
Doing like what kind of videos on YouTube?
We have some of our commercials that our franchisees use, videos they post on their website. We also have videos of testimonials of brokers. So a lot of times brokers will find prospective franchisees for us. And so then we invite the brokers to get to know our brand and get to know us better. And when they do that, we ask for a video testimonial from them. And we've done a lot of fun things with brokers. We've taken them horseback riding, whitewater rafting in Idaho, just everything to build a relationship with them.
That's it. That's what matters, man. Andrew, thank you so much. Thank you so much for all the gems, for really educating us on what it looks like to have that at-home care. So thank you, in-home care. And it doesn't even have to be in a home, as you mentioned. It could be a facility. So hopefully that people took so many gems out of this, man. We thank you so much. If you guys are enjoying these conversations, make sure you do like, comment, and subscribe. My name's Ephraim. This is Andrew. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Latest.
Thank you.